Hey everybody, good evening. It's Sunday night. It's time for the UK European friendly members Q&A. Really hope there's a couple of people around this evening and we can have a bit of a question and answer. I have come prepared. I have got some things to talk about just in case it is a bit quiet this evening. But the whole thing about a live Q&A is that we can get together and you can ask any questions that you may have about the plan, about the KISS way of eating, or just about keto in general, or anything else. Even if you just want to know how my day was, that's absolutely fine. Let's move the camera a bit, because there we are, it's better. There we are, you can see me better. Okay, so I wanted to chat about some of the things that we've picked up when we've been, hi Deborah, nice to see you. Some of the things that I've noticed, hi Cheryl, hi Sherry, sorry Cheryl, Sherry, nice to see you. So some of the things that we've picked up sort of when I'm asking questions of the different groups, I'm trying to bring out some key themes and some key obstacles and challenges that people have, hoping to really be able to address them in my Q&As and every time I come on. So hopefully there's plenty of content. Sorry, my dog is desperate to come up on my lap and join in. So that people have got content and they've got that information there should they need it and when they need it as well. So, so that's what I've been doing. So I'll crack on and as usual, comments, ask me questions, whatever you want to do as we go along. It's your time, so make sure if you've got any questions or anything you're unsure of about the plan going forward, if you're in week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever, let me know and I will answer them as we go along. So the first thing I wanted to hit on, I think it was you, Sherry, actually, that mentioned that you were still having issues with insomnia. Now, anyone will know who's been in ketosis that obviously the energy levels that we have when we're burning ketones instead of sugar are increased. And then, you know, it's not unfortunate. However, we do have, you know, less of a need for sleep when we're in ketosis. The body is quite alert, quite active, and quite energetic. So I'm gonna have to get rid of my 2 seconds. Let me just move the dog. Come on. I'll just move. Oh, apologies. Apologies for that. I just moved the little doggy who wants to get involved in the video this evening. So yeah, in terms of insomnia, then there's a couple of tricks that we can use to help. One of them would be to be physically active during the day. That can really help. The other thing is to get plenty of daylight. It's to do with what's called our circadian rhythm. Basically, the body is designed to be awake during the day and sleep during the night. And sometimes when we're not getting enough daylight, and particularly this time of year when the sun is only just starting to peep over the horizon, it can be that we're just not getting enough daylight for our body to know when to be awake and when to be asleep. So what I would say is, if possible, is to get as much daylight as we possibly can. Not only is it good for our sleep patterns, but it's also really good for our vitamin D and our, you know, our overall energy levels and our bone density and everything else. So if you can try and get as much daylight as possible, then that's another way. Now, I know that a lot of us already take magnesium. If you're not taking magnesium, that can help with sleep. But I think ultimately, in the long term, your body does adapt to running on ketones. So you do start to move through these different stages of the feeling of the insomnia and everything else. And you do come out the other side. So I will say that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I now sleep like a log. So it does take a little bit of getting used to. The amount of energy that we have. Sometimes it feels a little bit like the mind is racing in the night because it's still so alert, but it does pass. So not great. Hi. So it's not great. However, just to be aware that things like insomnia, they tend to be temporary. They tend to come in stages, and it tends to be one of those things where we start to crack that sort of ketosis. We start to get into ketosis. We start building up the amount of ketones in the blood, and one of the side effects is that you may have sleep disturbances because of the amount of energy that you have and the alertness. So perhaps, I don't know, we need some sort of nighttime activity, Sherry. Maybe you need to write that cookbook for us that we're all waiting for. So it will pass. However, I do understand that it's a little bit annoying to be awake in the middle of the night when everyone else is fast asleep. That happened to me last night, so. Okie dokie. So that's insomnia, and I hope that answers the question that it will pass eventually. Okie dokie. So I'll move on then. The other thing that I've heard this week is a couple of people dealing with nausea. Now, although I think a lot of this is to do with detoxing off sugar and a complete change in diet and digestion. However, another thing to look at is if you are feeling nauseous or lightheaded, then it could potentially be a lack of electrolytes. So if you're not replacing your salts and your minerals, then potentially that could cause a little bit of nausea. But I think overall it tends to be the overall change in the food, because for a lot of people it's a big change to come off processed food and to go on to very, very clean whole foods with none of the additives or the chemicals, and it is a little bit of a shock, I think, to the body, and the body starts to release a lot of toxins from the cells, and it can leave you feeling a little bit icky for a few weeks. So I'm well aware of that and went through toxic die-off myself for the first 2 weeks of my journey as well, and it's not great. It feels really, really bad. So I completely understand, and to be honest, there's not a huge amount we can do about it other than sort of get through it, but definitely look at electrolytes. So if you wanted to try a bone broth or something with plenty of electrolytes in it, the sort of things that we've seen in the group, people using sort of salt and lemon in their water, things like that to help a little bit with nausea. So I hope that covers nausea. Ultimately, we're not eating any foods that would make us ill. These are just normal foods that we would find in our environment. So it's not as if we're eating things that the body won't like. It's just that there's that transition from what we have been eating previously onto much cleaner food. And of course, we're forcing the liver to do lots and lots of work when we go into ketosis, not only to process all the toxins from the body as they're released, but also the liver is the one making those ketones as well. So the liver's doing lots and lots of work, and yeah, so there's lots of toxic processes going on, and lots of stuff being released from the cells, and I know it's really tough, but as long as we're drinking plenty, we're replacing our electrolytes, and we're eating great food, then the body will heal and it will feel a lot better very, very soon. Late night swimming, yes, absolutely. Why not, Sherry? Sounds good. Sounds good. Just not in a river, because it'll be dark and cold. But yeah, find a nice warm pool or hot tub, and then I'm in. Okay, so energy levels. It's not actually that common to have low energy when you are in a ketogenic state. So when people say to me that they're struggling with low energy, there is an issue. That means there's something missing. It's normally that they are only on the brink of ketosis, that they're not pushed into that ketogenic state. They haven't dropped carbs low enough for the body to produce enough ketones. So they're running on pretty much nothing. They've got no ketones, but they're also not eating enough carbs to have the sort of stores of glycogen and carbohydrates there either. So of course their body is just feeling really, really weak because there's no fuel of any type. So that's the first thing that I would always ask. Are you in ketosis? Are you producing enough ketones? And the reason, skinny dipping. And the reason that people aren't in ketosis is usually hidden carbs in their food, sweeteners, processed foods, all those hidden little nasties that we've come to learn about over the last couple of weeks, all those additives and appetite stimulants and the things that are knocking people out of ketosis. So that's the first thing to be aware of. If you've low energy, then there may be carbohydrates in the diet. Second thing is, what then are you burning? If you're not burning sugar, are you eating dietary fat to actually give your body energy? Now, I know we've got body fat. I know that most of us are here to burn body fat. However, in that initial phase, when we are transitioning and becoming fat adapted, the body does need some fuel. And often when people are feeling low energy, it's because they haven't embraced the high fat aspect of the keto lifestyle. And I won't tell you how many times a week I have to post on social media, because I can't scroll past people when they are told to start dialing back fat. You can't do that. You're just going to feel horrendous. So always look to see that you have replaced the carbohydrate calories in your diet with good, healthy, natural fat calories, so that the body has something to burn as fuel. Now, the best and the most ketogenic fats are our short chain fats and our medium chain fats. Short chain being things like butter, but also our saturated fats. So things like lard and meat fats are really, really short chain, and the body very, very quickly turns them into ketones. Butter being the best, in fact, if you need a very quick boost of ketones. The second thing would be those medium chain fatty acids that you'll find in things like coconut oil, and you see that people have refined it into something called MCT. Not a huge fan. I hear people having horrendous digestive issues from it, and I do wonder why we would eat something that the body rejects quite as readily as it rejects MCT. But things like coconut oil, unrefined coconut oil, have MCTs in them, and they're very quickly turned into ketones and can give you a real boost of energy. So again, if you're struggling with energy, you really need to think about butter, coconut oil, and those animal fats to give you those the building blocks for the ketones, which will provide that energy. Okay, so how long will it take to get into ketosis? Okay, so actually, Deborah, it doesn't take that long at all. Personally, it takes me 5 days to get into ketosis, and the vast majority of people will be in a ketogenic state within 7 days. The symptoms of which, for me, I have increased thirst. I have a very strange taste in my mouth as well, metallic-y taste, but I can also smell ketones in my urine when I first go into ketosis. They tend to go away slightly as I continue on in the journey. However, when I first go into ketosis, I can definitely smell it, and I can taste like a sweet metallic taste in my mouth, and I get an increased thirst. So that's the symptoms for me. And then as the number of ketones in the body starts to build, you get mental clarity and this sort of appetite suppression. You get an overall feeling of being really energetic as well. So there's a few things really that put together tell you that you're in ketosis. But ultimately, if you haven't been eating carbs for a week, and you're reasonably active, or you're moving around, then you're going to be in ketosis, because the body will have used its sugar stores and its glycogen in the liver and the muscles. So by that point, the only thing it can be burning, if you're still alive, is fat, meaning that you are ketogenic. So after a week, the vast majority of people, unless they're very, very big and have had huge amounts of glycogen stores, will be in ketosis. So yeah. Yeah, absolutely, like asparagus. Yeah. So it's just an odd smell to the urine. There's a definite change. For example, when I had diabetes, I could smell sugar puffs in my wee, which was bizarre, but really should have rung more alarm bells with me than it did. But yeah, so when we're in ketosis, there is a different smell to the urine, because when we break down the fat into ketones. There's several different ketone compounds that are produced. One is used for energy, and the others then need to be excreted from the body, and they come out in our breath, so we exhale some, but we also excrete some in the urine as well, and that's what you can actually smell. Yeah, okay. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, never heard it described like butter, but I don't know. For everyone, it smells slightly differently. But I'm just aware that it is definitely different. And of course, when I eat carbs again, because my insulin doesn't work very well, I smell sugar puffs again. So that's why I shouldn't be eating carbs. Okay. So I'll move along a little bit, but like Deborah's just done then, if you've got any questions, do drop them, and I will keep reading them and answering them for you. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is rate of weight loss. I mean, this is so multifactorial and is so individual to the person as well. There is no way of telling which individual will lose weight and at what rate they will lose weight. The only thing we can do is make sure that we are feeding the body the actual nutrients that it needs to rebuild itself and to take itself back into a natural state of weight, I guess. So some of the factors for weight loss then, firstly, it'll be the person's weight. Obviously, if you are a much larger person, then if, for example, you cut out carbohydrates, you may lose, say, 1% of your body weight a week. Now, your 1% of body weight is several pounds, whereas for another person, it may only be 1 pound. So obviously the weight of the person when they start to lose weight has a big impact on how much weight they're going to lose and in what time. The other things to consider is age. In particular, postmenopausal, perimenopausal, and premenopausal. There's a huge hormonal difference in terms of metabolism. So that's another thing that we need to take into account. And there's very little we can do about these factors. And sometimes it's about accepting who we are, where we are, and the journey may just take longer. It doesn't mean it's going to be unsuccessful. And we're hearing some fantastic success stories in the group from people who've previously struggled to lose weight. So it will happen. We are eating in a way that takes our body back to being lean and to being a healthy weight. But the time it takes will vastly differ per person. So I just want you to be aware that it's not helpful to compare weight loss between two different individuals of different weights, different ages, different levels of activity, and different medications. There's so many factors. So I just want to be reassuring. Yeah. So Sherry says, mine's slow and steady, but I'm amazed with the health benefits, so I'm willing to wait for the pounds to drop on the scale as long as the health changes there. Absolutely. So for me, I mean, I lost weight very rapidly at the beginning. I was in my mid-30s, premenopausal, tall. I had quite a lot of weight to lose. So those first few months, it literally fell off. But now, not only am I two years older, but I'm also at a position now with less body weight. So if I was to try and drop any weight, then it would be much slower. However, like Sherry mentioned, the sort of health benefits that we get from eating this way are numerous. It's ultimately a very clean way of eating, so the body has less toxins in it going through it, but you've also got that whole thing of the cardiac health, so in terms of our heart and our circulation, in terms of lowering cholesterol, in terms of lowering blood pressure, just the fact of not being obese and all the things that go with that, the increased risk of stroke and cancer and diabetes and everything else. So the weight loss is just an external sign that the body is returning back to health. So I think weight loss is It's the bonus, I guess, of all the different things that happen in the body when we choose to eat well. So yeah, I agree with you, Sherry, absolutely. And sometimes it is slow, and it would certainly be slow if I wanted to get any smaller than I am. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to try. I think it's going to be too hard to do it. Anyway, so going on then. Oh yeah, that's a good thing actually that I put down. So a couple of people are talking about overeating, not knowing when they're full, not really being confident on whether they're eating enough. It's a tricky thing to explain, really, because we're talking about what something feels like, and it is going to feel different for different people. However, what I would say is we know we're eating enough when we are full, energetic, and warm, and feeling fantastic. I mean, it's a feeling of well-being, of being well-nourished and well-fed and capable of doing the things in our lives that we want to do. So that's what eating enough feels like. Now, how does that look on a plate? Well, because our food is so nutrient dense, it's so high in calories per gram, that it's probably slightly less than you would see on a normal sort of pub plate. You know, our meat and our fat is very, very dense, and we don't have to eat huge amounts of it to actually fuel our bodies very, very well. So I guess what I would say is that we're probably eating plenty as long as we're feeling really, really energetic and full and fit and warm. And I will say warm because that is a classic sign. If you're feeling cold, if you can't get warm, then that's a good indication that maybe you're not eating enough. And certainly by the time we get to things like hair loss or dull skin or lethargy and things like that, then that's a real red flag that we are not eating enough. But I know it's difficult because we've got this appetite suppression, so it is easy to just stop eating as well. But I would say that we do need to eat, and if we are choosing to fast, we should do that mindfully. We should be aware of the fast period and the required feast periods around that fast as well. Are really just as important as that fast. We need to actually refuel the body after that fasting period with exactly the right types of food. So just be mindful if you are feeling those urges to fast, and I understand them because I get them myself. However, when we do get that hunger back, we should be feeding the body really sufficiently for any future fasts and for the rest of our day. Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. There's 4 people watching, but as we know, there'll be loads of people watching this on the replay. You know, it's in the middle of the day over in the States, so I do understand it's tough to stop in the middle of the day to come on. But I'm sure people will watch. And these Q&A videos actually go on YouTube as well, so there'll be lots more people who can actually see. While I'm here and I'm talking about YouTube, by the way, none of your comments actually come up on YouTube when I repost it. So it's not that people can see who you are. It's, you know, and that's why I'll always use just your first names to keep you all safe from the crazy people in the internet. Okie dokie. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I was really, really impressed with this actually when I asked people how do they feel that eating ketogenically has changed their relationship with food, and I was really, really thrilled that a lot of people feel that they've got a more positive and more master-servant relationship with food, as in food is there purely to fuel us, and we have nothing to give back to food, really. We don't worship it or fear it or anything else. You know, we've dropped some of the really evocative language around food, and there's a lot more people talking about food as just something they do in the day, a way to fuel themselves, and that they've stopped having those constant thoughts about food. And interestingly enough, those comments coming from people who've previously done a lot of weight loss on different ways of eating. But as we know, as we talked in our hormone talk, that when we drop calories, so when we do a low fat or a low calorie diet, our hunger hormone, so our drive to eat, actually increases on those ways of eating, whereas that's completely the opposite for us. And the less carbohydrate we eat and the more fat we eat, the less likely we are to be bothered around food, which is fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, what can we do, Sherry? I can't drag them in kicking and screaming. Hopefully, what I'm really hoping is that I can build loads and loads of value in this members group, and that the members go out and tell the world, they tell the public group what we're up to. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be really pushy with people. I have got a lot to give, hopefully, and I'm hoping that content and that value will speak for itself, and that people will go from the members group into the public group or into their friends and family and say, do you know what? You know, this is the best $24.99 you'll ever spend. It's amazing, and it could change your life. And hopefully that will go forward. But yeah, so the talk about the relationship with food was, I think, really, really positive. And I was really, really chuffed to see that there's people who have been struggling, who have come onto the 28-day plan and have made real progress, just by making that last change from going from the public group and reading the food lists, but coming on to the plan so that they're 100% on board with us, and already starting to lose weight. So that's good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember once that my mum said that if she could take a pill that would keep her going through the day, then she would do it. And I remember thinking how bizarre that was, because I loved food, and I couldn't really get my head around the fact that people didn't get the same level of enjoyment and love and adoration that I had for it. I found it really, really strange. However, I've completely gone the other way now, and people say, it's very plain food. It's very, well, it may be, but it's fueling me really, really, really well. And for me, it is a completely different relationship. Food is not something that the rest of my life revolves around. Well, that's a bit ironic, really, because my life pretty much is food now. But I mean, in terms of my food that I eat, is becoming far and far less important to me. So what I do is just make sure that when I do eat, it's good stuff, and that's the only thought process really that goes into it anymore. But there we are. So I think about it for you guys instead now. Should read meats. Oh, Mars. Are you sure you didn't mean Mars? Yeah, absolutely. And we can still really enjoy food, can't we? Because we're really lucky that keto food does taste really good. And we don't need to maybe be as restricted as people think that we are. We have a recipe for bread. We've got a way of doing pasta. We've got a way of doing rice if that's what we want to do. So we don't need to feel massively restricted. Personally, though, I'm not a big cook, and there's a lot of cooking involved when you eat whole foods, and I'm always very honest with that with people. I do cook more now than I did when I was eating rubbish. However, I think the benefits outweigh any of the convenience, really. But yeah, hopefully I'm going to do that video for you next week, that meal prep video, which my mum is very kindly said I can do in her kitchen, because there's no way I'd be able to do it in mine without pots and pans flying everywhere and things hanging off the ceiling. So so I'm going to do a meal prep video. The idea of that is to show you that I can, that we can, not just me, everybody can, because I'm not a great cook, but everyone can take some time out during the week. If one of the reasons, I'm going to call it a reason, it's an excuse, but a reason that people say to me that they find this difficult is that they simply don't have time to cook through the week, and they end up grabbing really suboptimal foods through the week. Now, that would be easy for me to say as well. I do 10.5-hour shifts. I'm out of the house 14 hours a day for 3 days a week. It would be very easy for me to say that I don't have time to cook. However, I'm going to show you in the video how I managed to make sure during those 3 days that I eat 100% on plan. So I'm just going to show you. It's going to take about an hour to cook all the food and have it done. And things in the dishwasher. So yeah, I'm going to show you how it can be done, because I really, really do not believe for 1 second that any of us don't have 1 hour for our health a week. I totally, totally believe that all of us have 1 hour. If we're watching a TV series, then we've got an hour a week. So we can definitely do this. And I'm going to show you how to do it. I don't know what I'm going to cook yet, so maybe you can throw some ideas at me. Okay. Yeah. Oh, the Muller lights. Oh, and the low-fat cottage cheese. Yeah. Yeah. I have heard rumours, though, Sherry, that Slimming World is having to backtrack a lot on its issues around fat. I think the evidence to support healthy fats is just becoming too loud to ignore. So I think even people like Slimming World are starting to come round to healthy fats. I think it'll be a while before they accept saturated fats as much as the ketogenic community does. I think we've got a way to go there. But I think, you know, we've seen in recent days, haven't we, that it's been in a national newspaper that one of a very renowned doctor has actually said that the current NHS guidelines on healthy eating are causing the obesity crisis. And you know, if anyone's watched that sugar film, if you've watched Fed Up, there's several, but those two in particular, you'll understand, particularly Fed Up, where this idea of whole grains comes from, and whole grains and lots of fruit and vegetables. But you'll also be able to track. And when you see the graph, it's so obvious. I don't know how they get away with denying it. That the guidelines came in the 70s, and literally from that day, Western society's got fatter. So yeah, crazy. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, Cheryl, I agree with you to a certain extent. However, I think there are plenty of keto foods available anyway. And I think what we need to do is start voting with our pockets. The more we buy keto food, the more available and the lower in price that it will become. So I don't know if I'm on board with producing keto processed foods. I don't know whether I'm on board with that. What I would love to see is more food in its natural state. So I think, and maybe this is exactly what you mean, but for example, we had that whole thing with the cream, didn't we? In the UK, the ingredients list on a pot of cream is milk. That's it. It's one ingredient. There's nothing else in there. And I think that should be available to everyone, more just food in its natural form. But I don't think we can trust the food industry to do keto. I really don't think we can. I think the only people we can trust to do keto is consumers and farmers. And hopefully I would love to see some organizations and some companies coming through that actually make more actual real foods, whole foods, more available to people. So maybe that's the way forward. Yeah. Can I put the links? Yeah, those links, Debbie, are actually on the website. If you go to the website, there's a page called resources, and the link to Fed Up and that sugar film should be on that resources page. I think they're on there, the links to the videos. Fed Up is actually on Netflix at the moment, so I would definitely say go and watch it while it's still on Netflix. It's US based, and it's actually about childhood obesity. And I challenge anyone to watch that and not be really, really angry at how children are being fed across the world. It's really, yeah, it makes me really cross. But anyway, they are there on the resources page anyway. Yeah, I think that we're seeing more vegan restaurants, we're seeing more vegetarian restaurants, we're seeing a move towards organic food. I think that, I mean, luckily we have steak, so it's quite easy to eat keto out. But I think that as the number of people demanding keto food increases, then it is a matter of time before you know, business actually catches on to that. You've only got to look at the trend in the number of people searching the word keto on Google in the last 5 years to understand that this is massive. And then there's a huge movement towards people calling for better food, better quality meats, better quality fats, better quality vegetables, and just to have an understanding that the food that they're eating is what they think it is. You know, they want a cabbage that's just a cabbage, and they want beef that you know, ate grass, had a good life, got to a reasonable age, and saw sunshine. So, you know, there is more of a call for it, but I think the more people that vote with their pockets, the better. And I have you know, something nagging at my brain as well at the moment, but I'm so busy doing this at the moment that it's going to have to go on the back burner. But I do have a little business idea in the back of my head. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, we've got to vote with our pockets and make sure that we're buying the good quality stuff. Ultimately, investing in our diet, investing in good quality meat and vegetables and fats is an investment for our future. It's a matter of time in the UK before we have to pay for our healthcare. I know that in the US you already do, and you know, that sort of method of healthcare is pretty much on its way to the UK. You know, our National Health Service is, I don't think, going to be around forever. Let's hope it is. But ultimately, I think that you pay a cost when you are unhealthy and not eating well. And I know for me that other than the dry throat that I've got at the moment, I've been so incredibly well since I've started keto. And I think that will be a huge saving for a lot of us as well. So, okie dokie. Anyone else got any questions about the plan or the way of eating or anything else, or any comments? It'd be great to see. Oh, I just noticed Sherry said that the Frosty cereal are less sins than an avocado. That says a lot, doesn't it? Avocado, really, really healthy, full of fiber, heart healthy fats, potassium, magnesium, manganese, loads and loads of vitamins and minerals in an avocado. But some people are absolutely crazy and think that a bowl of Frosties would be better for you. I don't know what to say about that, Sherry, other than I know I'm well aware of the difference in the two ways of eating. But has anyone else had any struggles or anything that you can think of that I haven't covered? I know I've covered one or two things tonight, but before I go, I'm going to give you sort of 30 seconds just in case anyone else has any questions before we end the session. Just to give you a heads up what's coming up this week. Thursday is going to be our theory day. Yeah, it is insane. Thursday is going to be our theory day. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to cover. There's a few different things that I'm quite interested in. One of them is sort of fat. So talking about fat in terms of cardiac health and cholesterol. I don't know how you feel about that and whether that's of interest to you. Or if there's something else. Another thing I'd like to look at is exercise. I think there's that assumption that the more exercise you do, the more weight you will lose. And that is just an assumption. That's not necessarily the case. However, exercise is good, and I'm never going to be the type of person to tells you to not exercise, because it is really important for health. However, there's different ways of exercising, and there's different ways of using exercise for different goals as well. So Sherry's interested in heart health. Anyone else got any burning issues that they would love covered? It's not the only Thursday theory. There's every other Thursday theory that we can cover these things. The hormone. Oh, the dawn phenomenon, yeah. That's really interesting, actually, Cheryl. And yeah, we could definitely cover that. Everyone will start eating breakfast afterwards, because ultimately there's reason to use that dawn effect to our metabolic advantage. However, I know in my personal case that there is no way I could get up early enough to do that meal as well. But yeah, we could certainly cover that. Very, very important, the dawn effect. But you won't always notice it. Most people won't notice it unless they're doing keto monitoring or blood sugar monitoring, or insulin monitoring even. So most of us are totally unaware of the dawn effect. However, I know when Dawn did her fast the other day that she actually measured her ketones first thing in the morning, and they were a lot lower than when she went to bed. And of course, she hadn't eaten in that time, so you can see that the dawn effect in all its glory when she did that. So yeah, we could definitely cover that. But I think if it's okay with you guys, that we'll stick to sort of talking about fat and why people are so worried about fat and cholesterol, and whether we should be, or whether when we eat the food that our bodies have been eating since the beginning of human history, whether we can trust those foods or not, and how do we know which are good fats and bad fats, and how can we understand cholesterol, because ultimately cholesterol is vital and it's part of everything that we do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so where was I? I've just completely lost myself then. I had a mind blank. Long week. Yeah, so I'd love to talk about cholesterol, because there's a few people in the group who are really being affected by the fear of fat, this fat phobia, and it's maybe impacting quite a few people who are worried about overeating, worried about fat, worried about heart health, worried about cholesterol, and aren't able to embrace the keto lifestyle maybe as much as they could do if they just understood the processes involved. And I think that when I was reading about cholesterol, it was such an eye-opener and so logical. Why would the body produce these toxic substances if they weren't necessary? Why would we get ill eating the sorts of foods that we are actually designed to eat? So it's quite interesting when you delve into it and you understand the different types of cholesterol, why it's there, what would increase cholesterol, what would lower cholesterol, whether cholesterol is in fact a bad thing or a good thing, and yeah, we'll take a deep dive into heart health and cholesterol, so that when you're having those conversations with people about the keto lifestyle, you maybe feel more confident when they're saying, but all the fat, then you can say, fat's really good and this is why. So hopefully that will come across. Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely talk about skin. Skin's really important, and it's something that I'm still working on myself. So it's really personal to me as well. And we can talk about how we can naturally moisturize the skin by how we hydrate ourselves, how we can hydrate the skin through eating things that have lots of vitamin E and things. We can do that, and we can talk about loose skin as well and how the body tightens loose skin. And of course, we'll talk about some of the building blocks for skin elasticity as well, and how we can get them into the diet. I will definitely do that. That's a fantastic idea. And of course, the more weight we lose, the more we start talking about skin. And for me, it is that last piece of the puzzle. And I know that it's going to take much longer than losing the weight did. So I'm in for the long haul, and hopefully I can share some of my experience of tightening my skin with you as well. Okie dokie, so I'm going to leave it now. Thank you so much for this evening. It's been fantastic. I absolutely love these Q&As. The next time you'll see me on video is on Thursday. However, I'll be around the group every day until then. Thursday will be about cardiac health, cholesterol and fat, and hopefully give you some confidence when you're talking to people about the way that we eat. And then Saturday night, I'll be going live late for people in the US, and then Sunday, same time. So yeah, hopefully see you then. I'll sign out. See you soon. Be good. Eat lots of fat. Drink your water. Salt your food. And yeah, otherwise just generally enjoy. See you soon. Bye. It was so slow.